What is up, ladies and gentle nerds? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and today we are going to be looking at another random magic card. But before we get into the regular festivities, I do want to let you know, as of this recording, it is June 3rd, 2020, and next week I'm actually going to be a sponsored content creator. Special thanks to Wizards of the Coast. So I'm going to be running my normal stream schedule, plus actually I'm going to be taking Monday off of my day job. I'm going to be playing Magic all freaking day over on Twitch, twitch.tv/hamhawks42. Please come on by, check it out. If you want to challenge me to a best of one or best of three, that is going to be open all day. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and we can get as serious or as janky as you want. I'm all for it. So I look forward to seeing you out there. We're going to have a ton of fun. Thank you, Wizards of the Coast, for this amazing opportunity. I really appreciate it. And now on to the show. So I'm going to go ahead and click a random card, and let's go ahead and bring it on up, see what we see. All right. So today we are looking at Vengeful Rebirth. All right, so it's Gruul. Gruul? How's that pronounced? It's green. It's green red. You know, the green red, the barbarian people from Ravnica. You know, the one with the Domries and the whatnot. Anyway, Vengeful Rebirth. It costs 4 generic red green for a sorcery that says return target card from your graveyard to your hand. If you return a non-land card to your hand this way, Vengeful Rebirth deals damage equal to that card's converted mana cost to target creature or player, and then exile Vengeful Rebirth. Oh dang. Oh dang. Okay, so this is tasty, and this is tasty for a number of different reasons. It's okay, like so many cards. So this is actually an uncommon that was printed in the original Magic the Gathering Commander product. It looks like it was originally printed in Alara Reborn. Um, okay, so so it wasn't necessarily tied to Gruul on Ravnica. It was tied to Alara. Presumably, I'd imagine Jund. That has that kind of feel to it. Anyway, so the thing about this card that's really cool is twofold. This is card advantage in Gruul, which is not something that you see very often. And I'm going to keep saying Gruul. I know that if you listen to um, content creators, or like the normal slang is to just use the Ravnican guilds whenever you're talking about any two color combination, even though if you listen to the folks who actually make the game at Wizards, they never say Gruul unless they're referring to the guild on Ravnica. That's it. End of discussion. That is what Gruul means. Period. The two color combination is red green or green red, and but I like the shorthand. They gave it to us. I'm going to use it. So Gruul here, it's card advantage in a way that you don't usually see. So in Gruul, what I expect to see is I expect to see creatures that are a good size for their cost, potentially with haste or potentially a little bit bigger than you would see at a standard rate. And to be swinging very fast. I expect haste, I expect trample, potentially first strike. Like I'm expecting combat. I'm expecting creatures on the board, combat. That's what I expect. That's what I want out of my Gruul decks. I want like a good Gruul aggro or a good Gruul mid-range strategy is put creatures on the board, make them bigger potentially, and just punch a bunch. And so you don't necessarily see cards that are pulling stuff from the graveyard up to your hand. Like that's a weird interaction that you don't usually see in this color combination. So the fact that like right out of the gate, we are pulling a card from your graveyard and putting it back into your hand, and it can be any card that's in your graveyard. It doesn't have to be a creature, it doesn't have to be a sorcery, it doesn't have to be an instant, it doesn't have to be an enchantment. There are no restrictions. It can be any single card in your entire graveyard. So if it's a huge creature that your opponent finally killed, boom, this just resets it. If it's a sorcery, if it's some kind of burn that dealt an obscene amount of damage to your opponent, well, boom, you just get to pull it right back and reload, do it again. Um, and that's awesome. And as you're pulling it back into your hand, you get to deal an incredible amount of damage to a creature or player. That's awesome. Oh, and the Oracle text actually does say any target, so you can target planeswalkers with this. So it's a really potentially very powerful burn spell on top of everything else. So let's say just this is just right off the top, very simple interaction that does not leverage any rare cards. Let's say I have Vengeful Rebirth and Titanoth Rex, which is a card that came out in Ikoria that you can cycle for 2. And when you cycle, put a trample counter on a creature, but it has a mana cost of, I want to say 11? Is that right? 11-9, something like that. It's a very, very big creature. Well, and you can chuck it in your graveyard by cycling it. So you just do that on turn 2, and it's just chilling there in your graveyard, just being in your graveyard. And then on turn 7, you can leverage it for 6 mana to deal 11 damage to any target on turn 6. Like, if you don't win the game with that, you're doing something wrong. Like, that's insane. Like, that's truly insane. And you get the Titan Rex back in your hand. You can cycle it again if you can get some value out of that, or you could actually play it at that point. So that's fantastic. Like, I have nothing but good things to say about Vengeful Rebirth. I think this card is great. The one thing, it is situational. It does cost 6, so you do have to have a sizable card already in your graveyard. But if you're doing a Gruul mid-range strategy where you're going for aggro, you probably have a couple of decent-sized creatures that have already hit the bin, because your opponent is going to be doing a lot to try to wipe the board or try to address the creatures that you're putting down, or potentially countering them before they hit play. So this as a top-end way to knock out a pesky planeswalker, and ultimately get back a creature that your opponent finally dealt with. The card advantage that you can get with this is very, very real. Now, the one thing that I also really appreciate that I want to point out from a design perspective: Vengeful Rebirth exiles itself. That is something that you will see with instants and sorceries that are capable of pulling instants and sorceries out of the graveyard back into your hand. They will usually exile themselves. And the reason for that is it prevents a player from running multiple copies in the deck and being able to use them to chain each other. Because if you could use Vengeful Rebirth to pull back a Vengeful Rebirth out of your graveyard, you'd be able to deal 6 damage and then use the next Vengeful Rebirth, and that can just be your turn forever. Amen. You're just pulling. So your turn, you just tap 6, loop Vengeful Rebirth once, punch your opponent for 6, or destroy something on their board. And that would effectively create um, kind of a lockdown scenario for your opponent, where every single turn you'd have access to 6 damage that you can point at anything. And that would be really unpleasant. And so the exile clause here prevents you from doing that. And I think that that's a safeguard that is really, really important. As somebody who identifies as Johnny Combo player, I really I notice little things like that, because there are certain philosophies, or there are certain effects that are more likely to enable infinite combos than others. The ability to recursively untap something, keep an eye out for that. Anytime you can sink mana into ability without tapping the creature or artifact that it's on, be aware of that. That is, like, those are infinite combo engines. Anytime you can use a card to pull itself out of the graveyard after you've used it, um, that is a situation that can produce an infinite loop fairly easily. Like, when I say fairly easily, I mean you usually have to generate some kind of obscenely large amount of mana in order to execute that, but it's not impossible. Like, those things can happen. So Vengeful Rebirth, it has that safeguard in place. Um, so I can appreciate that. That's smart. But at the same time, this is really cool. And the other thing that I really appreciate is the fact that it's gotten reprinted in Commander specifically. I think this is an excellent Commander card, because aggro is a strategy that is very difficult to pull off in Commander, because in a 60 card constructed format, when you're sitting down across the table from someone, you need to be able to generate 20 damage to them before they get their engine online in order to be successful. That's what you're trying to do in aggro. In a commander game, you have 3 targets, all of whom are going to have different board states, and they have 40 life apiece. So your one deck needs to effectively generate 120 points of damage before they are able to get any answers online. That's frankly borderline impossible unless you have some kind of really insane combo style value engine, like a Godo or Najila, that allows you to get additional combo, or additional combat steps, or that type of effect. So unless you're comboing off and happening, and you just so happen to use combat as the finisher, but even then, like, I wouldn't call that a traditional aggro strategy. So if you're trying to build Gruul aggro, you need to get creative with stuff like this, because your opponents will wipe your board. If you're spending your first 5 turns establishing a board presence of creatures that you're going to mobilize against your opponent, you are going to swing into a Cyclonic Rift or an Aether Spouts, or a Wrath of God or a Rout. You're going to do it. It's going to happen. I guarantee it. Oh, or or is it Settle the Wreckage? Like those cards exist. They're out there. Everybody has access to them. You need to be ready for it. And something like Vengeful Rebirth will give you an opportunity to fish out that really important card from your graveyard that, left you oh so soon and really punch somebody in the face for putting it in the graveyard to begin with. And that's pretty cool. And the name, Vengeful Rebirth. You are taking something that was alive that your opponent killed and you are hurting them to get it back. I love that. Like that is Gruul to a T. Like that is green red. You have the natural order restoration, healing, this elemental natural growth force of green, along with this fiery, passionate, angry red, and those two combine to make Vengeful Rebirth. I think it's perfect. This card's great. I'm a big fan. Yeah, it's excellent, and this is an uncommon from the original Magic the Gathering Commander set. I I can't say enough good things about it. I think it's a fun design. You can do cool things with it. It has the safeguards in place so that people like me, Johnny's like me, can't easily abuse it. You can't easily abuse it. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are options. There are ways. The first thing that I think of is spell cloning, being able to duplicate this multiple times after you've potentially milled yourself. That could be fun. You could do a lot of cool things with that. Um, hmm. Anyway, I'm gonna have to brew on that. But yeah, this guy's pretty cool. I like this card a lot. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. This has been an absolute blast. As I said at the top, twitch.tv/Hamox42. You can also catch me on Twitter at Hox42. I look forward to hearing from you soon, and I will catch you next time.